Listen carefully. There is a painful truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The truth is that success rarely belongs to the most talented. It rarely belongs to the smartest. It rarely belongs to the most gifted. More often than not, it belongs to the person who simply refuses to stop. The person who shows up when they don't feel like it. The person who continues when motivation disappears. The person who understands that consistency is more important than intensity. This was one of the great lessons hidden within Stoic philosophy, and it is a lesson that modern society desperately needs. Today, millions of people are trapped in a cycle. They wait to feel motivated before they act. They wait for inspiration before they begin. They wait for the perfect mood, the perfect circumstances, the perfect opportunity. And while they wait, years pass. Opportunities disappear. Potential fades. Dreams remain dreams. Marcus Aurelius understood something that most people never realize. Your feelings are unreliable. Your emotions change daily. Your motivation comes and goes. But your principles can remain. This is why discipline is superior to motivation. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is rational. Motivation asks, do I feel like doing this today? Discipline asks, does this need to be done? One question creates weakness. The other creates strength. Look closely at your own life. How many goals have been abandoned because motivation disappeared? How many plans were exciting in the beginning, but forgotten after a few weeks? How many promises did you make to yourself only to break them later? Most people think they have a motivation problem. In reality, they have a discipline problem, because motivation gets you started. Discipline keeps you going, and consistency transforms your life. Marcus Aurelius did not wake up every day feeling inspired. He ruled an empire, he faced wars, political betrayals, economic crises, disease, loss, stress, responsibility beyond what most people can imagine. Yet every morning he continued performing his duties, not because he always wanted to, but because he believed it was his responsibility. This is where discipline begins. Not with desire, not with excitement, but with duty. The modern world teaches people to follow their feelings. The Stoics taught people to follow their values, and there is a massive difference between the two. Feelings change, values endure. If you build your life around feelings, your actions become unstable. If you build your life around values, your actions become reliable. The disciplined person does not ask, how do I feel today? They ask, what kind of person do I want to be? This single shift changes everything, because consistency is ultimately an identity problem. Every action is a vote, every decision is evidence. Every habit is a declaration of who you are becoming. When you exercise despite not wanting to, you cast a vote for discipline. When you keep your promise despite inconvenience, you cast a vote for integrity. When you continue despite boredom, you cast a vote for consistency. Small actions seem insignificant in the moment, but they compound. Days become weeks, weeks become months, months become years, and years become a life. Most people underestimate the power of repetition. They want dramatic transformation. They want overnight success. They want immediate results. But nature does not work that way. A tree grows slowly. A mountain forms gradually. An empire is built one brick at a time, and character develops through repeated action. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that excellence is not an event. It is a habit, a way of living, a way of thinking, a way of responding to life's challenges. This is why discipline must become automatic, not something you occasionally practice, but something you embody. The problem is that many people confuse discipline with punishment. They imagine it as suffering. restriction, misery. But true discipline is freedom. Without discipline, your impulses control you. Without discipline, distractions control you. Without discipline, emotions control you. Without discipline, circumstances control you. The undisciplined person is not free. They are a slave to comfort, a slave to procrastination, a slave to excuses, a slave to immediate gratification. The disciplined person, however, develops self-command, and self-command is one of the highest forms of freedom. Imagine two people. One wakes up and immediately obeys every impulse. If they feel tired, they stay in bed. If they feel lazy, they avoid work. If they feel distracted, they abandon focus. If they feel discouraged, they quit. The other wakes up and acts according to principles rather than emotions. Who is truly free? The Stoics would argue that only the second person possesses real freedom, because freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. Freedom is the ability to do what is right despite what you want. This distinction separates ordinary people from extraordinary people. History consistently rewards those who master themselves, not those who master others. Self-mastery is the foundation of all achievement, and self-mastery begins with discipline. But there is another challenge that destroys consistency, a challenge that Marcus Aurelius understood deeply, the challenge of boredom. Most people can be disciplined for a few days. Some can maintain it for a few weeks. Very few can remain disciplined when progress becomes invisible, when results become delayed, when effort feels repetitive, when success seems distant. This is where consistency dies, not because the task becomes difficult, but because it becomes boring. And yet boredom is often the gateway to greatness. The champion trains when training is boring. The writer writes when writing is boring. The entrepreneur works when progress is boring. The Stoic continues when consistency becomes boring, because they understand a profound truth. The results they seek are hidden behind repetition. What appears ordinary today becomes extraordinary over time. One workout changes little. 1,000 workouts change everything. One page changes little. 1,000 pages change everything. One disciplined day changes little. 1,000 disciplined days change everything. This is the power of consistency, and this is why Marcus Aurelius emphasized daily practice. Not occasional effort, not bursts of enthusiasm, daily effort, daily improvement, daily discipline. Because the person who improves by only 1% each day eventually becomes unrecognizable from the person they once were. The question is not whether discipline works. The question is whether you are willing to remain disciplined long enough to see the results. Most people are not, which is why most people remain average. But the Stoic path was never designed for average people. It was designed for those willing to endure discomfort in pursuit of excellence. And in the next chapter, we will explore the greatest enemy of discipline, the hidden force that destroys consistency before it has a chance to transform your life. Most people believe their biggest obstacle is lack of time. They say they would be disciplined if they had a better schedule. They say they would be consistent if work were less demanding. They say they would finally change if circumstances improved. But Marcus Aurelius would likely ask a different question. What are you doing with the time you already have? The truth is uncomfortable. Many people do not lose their goals in dramatic moments. They lose them in small moments. 5 minutes of distraction, 10 minutes of delay, one unnecessary scroll through a phone, one decision to start later, one promise to just relax for a bit. Tiny leaks sink large ships, and tiny compromises destroy consistency. The hidden enemy of discipline is not usually difficulty. It is drift, a gradual movement away from what matters, almost invisible at first. You miss one workout, then another. You skip one study session, then postpone the next. You tell yourself it is temporary, and before long, the habit that was supposed to change your life has quietly disappeared. This is why the Stoics valued awareness. They paid attention to their own minds. They understood that every excuse sounds reasonable in the moment. That is what makes excuses dangerous. If excuses sounded foolish, nobody would believe them. Instead, they sound practical. You deserve a break. You can make it up tomorrow. One day won't matter. You're too tired today. Start fresh on Monday. The problem is not that these thoughts appear. The problem is that people obey them automatically. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself that the mind must be examined, not blindly followed. A thought is not a command. An emotion is not an order. An impulse is not a decision. Discipline begins the moment you create space between feeling and action. You feel tired, but you still begin. You feel distracted, but you still focus. You feel unmotivated, but you still continue. This is the difference between reacting and choosing. And choice is where consistency lives. Another mistake people make is relying on intensity instead of systems. They try to transform their entire life overnight. Wake up at 4 a.m. exercise. 2 hours, read 50 pages. Meditate, journal, work on a side business, learn a language. Then 3 days later they collapse. Not because they are weak, because they built a routine that depended on excitement. Excitement fades. Systems remain. The Stoic approach is simpler. Make the next action obvious. Make it repeatable. Make it difficult to avoid. If you want to read, leave the book where you sit. If you want to exercise, prepare your clothes the night before. If you want to write, open the document before you go to bed. Reduce friction. Increase repetition. Let consistency become easier than avoidance. People often ask how to stay disciplined for years. The answer is not heroic willpower every day. The answer is designing your life so the right action becomes the default action. Marcus Aurelius did not reinvent himself each morning. He returned to the same principles: duty, reason, self-control, service. The power came from repetition. There is also a trap that destroys many disciplined people: perfectionism. They miss one day and decide they have failed. They eat one unhealthy meal and abandon the diet. They skip one workout and stop training for a month. The Stoics would call this irrational. One mistake does not define you. What matters is the next action. A disciplined person is not someone who never slips. A disciplined person is someone who returns quickly. Miss once? Resume immediately. Get distracted? Refocus immediately. Fall behind? Start again today. Do not turn a single error into a new identity. And remember this: consistency is not measured by never breaking the chain. It is measured by how quickly you repair it. The greatest danger is not failure. It is the story you tell yourself after failure. I always quit. I'm not disciplined. I'll never change. These statements become self-fulfilling. Marcus Aurelius warned against becoming a servant to your own judgments. Speak to yourself with honesty, not defeat. Instead of "I failed," say "I stopped, now I continue." Instead of "I'm lazy," say "I acted lazily, now I act differently." Identity should be built from repeated choices, not temporary setbacks. Finally, understand that discipline feels different than people expect. It often feels ordinary, quiet, unimpressive. The world celebrates dramatic moments, but your life is shaped by repeated ones. The morning you get up on time, the workout nobody sees, the page you read instead of scrolling, the task you finish when you would rather avoid it. These moments do not look extraordinary, yet they are the moments that separate the person you are from the person you could become. And in the next chapter, we will go deeper into the Stoic method for making discipline automatic, so you no longer have to negotiate with yourself every day. If there is one lesson that Marcus Aurelius understood better than most people, it is this: you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. Most people spend their lives obsessed with outcomes. They think about success, they think about wealth, they think about recognition, they think about becoming someone extraordinary, but they rarely focus on the daily actions required to become that person. The Stoics approached life differently. They understood that outcomes are uncertain. Effort is not. Results are uncertain. Actions are not. The future is uncertain. The present moment is not. This is why Marcus Aurelius constantly directed his attention back to what he could control. Not the rewards, not the applause, not the final destination, only the next action. This mindset changes everything, because when your happiness depends on results, you become fragile. When your satisfaction depends on effort, you become resilient. The disciplined person does not wake up asking, "How successful will I be today?" They ask, "What is my duty today?" That single question removes emotion from the equation. And discipline thrives when emotion is no longer in charge. One of the greatest mistakes modern people make is constantly negotiating with themselves. The alarm rings. A debate begins. The work becomes difficult. Another debate begins. The gym feels uncomfortable. Yet another debate begins. Every decision becomes a courtroom argument. The mind presents excuses. The will presents reasons. Energy is wasted. Consistency suffers. Marcus Aurelius solved this problem through action. When it was time to work, he worked. When it was time to lead, he led. When it was time to endure hardship, he endured it. He did not allow endless internal discussions to consume his energy. He understood a profound truth. Action often creates motivation. Motivation rarely creates action. Most people wait to feel ready. The Stoic begins before readiness arrives. Most people wait for confidence. The Stoic acts despite uncertainty. Most people wait for inspiration. The Stoic relies on discipline. This is why discipline becomes easier over time. Not because the work changes, because the person changes. Each act of self-control strengthens character. Each promise kept strengthens trust in yourself. Each difficult task completed builds confidence. Real confidence is not built by positive thinking. It is built by evidence. Evidence that you can rely on yourself. Evidence that you do what you say you will do. Evidence that your actions match your words. When people lack confidence, it is often because they have repeatedly broken promises to themselves. They have taught themselves that their own commitments cannot be trusted. The solution is simple, not easy, but simple. Start keeping your promises. Make smaller promises if necessary, but keep them. If you say you will exercise for 10 minutes, do it. If you say you will read 5 pages, do it. If you say you will wake up at a certain time, do it. Trust is built one kept promise at a time, and self-trust is the foundation of discipline. Marcus Aurelius also understood the importance of accepting discomfort. This may be the lesson modern society struggles with most. People are constantly searching for comfort. Comfortable schedules, comfortable conversations, comfortable emotions, comfortable lives. Yet growth rarely occurs inside comfort. Strength is built through resistance. Discipline is built through resistance. Character is built through resistance. The Stoics did not seek suffering for its own sake. They simply refused to fear it. They understood that discomfort is not an enemy. It is often a teacher. The discomfort of exercise teaches endurance. The discomfort of study teaches focus. The discomfort of discipline teaches mastery. When you stop running from discomfort, you discover that it has far less power over you than you imagined. This realization creates freedom.
Because a person who can endure discomfort cannot be easily controlled. They are no longer a slave to convenience, no longer a slave to pleasure, no longer a slave to excuses.
They become capable of choosing what is right over what is easy, and that is where true discipline is born. There is another Stoic principle that deserves attention, the principle of daily renewal. Many people believe discipline is built once and maintained forever. It is not. Discipline is renewed daily. Every morning presents a choice. Every day offers new temptations. Every evening reveals whether you honored your values. This is why Marcus Aurelius journaled regularly. Not because he was weak, because he understood that self-mastery requires constant attention. The mind drifts. Habits weaken, focus fades. Without reflection, discipline slowly erodes. Take time each day to examine yourself. Ask, what did I do well today? Where did I fail? What can I improve tomorrow? Not with self-hatred, not with guilt, but with honesty. The purpose of reflection is growth, not punishment. And perhaps the most important lesson of all is this. Discipline is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming reliable. Perfection is impossible. Reliability is achievable. You do not need to win every day. You simply need to keep showing up. Again and again and again. Over time, those ordinary acts create extraordinary results. Years from now, people may look at your success and call it talent. They may call it luck. They may call it natural ability. What they will not see are the thousands of small decisions that created it. The mornings you got up when you wanted to stay in bed. The days you worked when you wanted to quit. The moments you stayed focused when distraction seemed easier. The promises you kept when nobody was watching. That is the true source of discipline, not motivation, not inspiration, not emotion, but repeated action, guided by principle. Marcus Aurelius left behind many powerful lessons, but perhaps one of the greatest can be summarized in a single idea. Your life is built by what you do repeatedly. Not occasionally, not when convenient, not when you feel inspired, repeatedly. Every day you are becoming someone. Every action casts a vote for the person you will become. Every habit shapes your future. Every decision strengthens or weakens your character. The question is not whether you are building a life. You are. The question is what kind of life you are building. And the answer will never be found in your intentions. It will always be found in your actions. So stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting to feel ready. The Stoics understood something timeless. The perfect moment is now. The task is in front of you. The choice is yours. Begin and then continue. That is how discipline is built. That is how consistency is maintained. And that is how ordinary people become extraordinary.